Great. Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me and SFFs to be a part of your workshop today. Um, after speaking with Terry, after I guess you all's last meeting, there were plenty of questions concerning our academic success plan process, that type of thing. So I wanted to make sure that we kind of answer some of those questions in our presentation, as well as having Patrick on board to kind of go over the new dashboard of the degree works, that type of thing. So I'll go ahead and get started. And let me see if I can you all see the screen okay? Okay. As far as the purpose, process, and payoff, and this is what we typically live by when talking to students or working as a team. We want to provide informative communication to students regarding satisfactory academic progress, also known as SAP, and the process to highlight the SAP appeal policy and process regarding eligibility to receive Title IV aid. And the payoff is through collaborations such as yourself and others. Students gain a valuable guide towards SAP compliance. So let's talk a little bit about, let me see, I need to minimize that. Okay. What is satisfactory academic progress? Well, of course, the federal regulations require that students maintain GPA, completion rate, and maximum time frame academic standards to gain and maintain federal student aid eligibility. So the SAP process begins by the student explaining the circumstance that resulted in below SAP standards and what steps they will take to implement a success going forward academically. So we look at third-party documentation, and they attach that documentation to the appeal that supports their personal statement. And if this is not a student's first time appeal, and I think this was a question in you all's last meeting, if this is not a student's first appeal, after the first reviewer by the PJ team, the student is sent to the upper level review committee for a decision. But if it's the student's first time appeal, the student will go through first and second review by the PJ team. And we are a team of 5, counting myself, 4 other reviewers, processors, and myself. The academic success plan, of course, it is an agreement between the student and academic advisor to reach SAP compliance. Financial aid can only pay for courses that are required towards a student's declared program of study and must be listed for each term on the academic success plan. And to maintain that, we want to ensure that students continue to meet WVU's SAP requirements and maintain a proper progression as they move forward towards their degree. So the role of the PJ team, like I mentioned, we are a team of 5, counting myself. We review the personal statement and supporting third-party documents to make sure that they satisfy the WVU SAP's policy. And we ask for additional documents or deny the appeal if all options have been exhausted for us to move the SAP appeal forward to approval. Then we review the academic success plan and academic history to ensure that the student will reach SAP standards at the conclusion of the academic success plan. So if approved, we administer the SAP contract or the plan and contact the student and of course the academic advisor of the approval. We extend a financial aid offer to the student if they have met all the other financial aid requirements. So we offer them an award. And then we monitor the course schedule daily to ensure the students are following their approved academic success plan. So currently, I think we have, for the spring term, we have approximately 157 students on an academic success plan. And this was as of March 22nd. We've had 17 who failed their contracts so far. So also in the last meeting, there were some questions about the glossary of financial aid terms. And I tied this to the SAP piece of it. And of course, as I've said before, SAP, the Satisfactory Academic Progress, SAP standards required to be monitored for financial aid continued eligibility for institutional, need-based, and/or federal Title IV financial assistance. These standards may be stricter than those defined in the academic standards. And you'll see, I have a slide on the academic GPAs and so forth that may differ from on the academic side. The grade point average must be above a 2.0 for all programs of study. We monitor the completion rate, which the student must complete 67% of the hours attempted. And we do that by the hours earned divided by hours attempted, which equals the completion rate. Maximum time frame, we monitor that as well. The maximum number of attempted hours based on the student's degree objective. For instance, if the program of study requires 120 credit hours, we are able to offer financial aid to that student up to 180. If the student have reached that 180 and no degree, they may be able to appeal and we would ask for information on how close they are to completion, that type of thing, to move them forward. And of course, the appeal process, the students suspended from financial aid have the option to appeal, which is what we're talking about today, for their financial aid eligibility. This process does not reiterate academic standing for students on academic suspension. So there is a separate process for that. If a student is academically suspended and they are suspended from financial aid, they can appeal the academic suspension. And if denied, they of course wouldn't get financial aid if they were denied academic, but we have had situations where the student was approved for the academic side, but not approved on the financial aid side. So that process can happen. The academic success plan, of course, is developed by the academic advisor, and degree works outlining the courses and GPA needed each semester to comply with SAP standards for financial aid eligibility. So as I mentioned, these are the categories of SAP compliance. Students not meeting GPA, completion rate, or maximum time frame requirements are notified at the end of spring semester. So we will be getting to do an all-out SAP review at the end of the spring semester, somewhere around May 11th. And you can see on this slide the GPAs required for certain programs. And the 67% completion rate, or 66.5, we round up to 67 if they're that close, is required for all. And then the maximum time frame of being 150%. Students not able to reach compliance within 3 terms will have to pay out of pocket. And I think there was a question at your last meeting about how do you advise denied students? Well, they have to pay out of their pocket if they're not approved for financial aid. They have to pay out of pocket, or they can seek a private student loan. Some private student loans do not require a SAP component. So some things that we look for on the academic success plan, which is very important for our team. And of course, the student meets with the academic advisor and submits an appeal with a personal statement explaining the extenuating circumstance, the third-party documentation that follows the SAP policy and supports the student's personal statement, and then the academic success plan with degree pursuant listed on under each term with that will guide the student towards SAP compliance at its conclusion. And these are just the steps, student steps to submit an appeal. But one of the things that we look for when we're reviewing the student SAP appeal is that the ASP, the Academic Success Plan, is locked in DegreeWorks, and that it lists major specific courses and lists the GPA for each term. And you can use the 3-term calculator that's embedded into DegreeWorks to determine if the student can become compliant in 3 terms. And this is what we receive currently. Now, I'm not sure if this will look the same under the new dashboard. I apologize for all these notifications. I should have turned them off if I knew how. Let's see if I can turn them off. This is what we look at when we're reviewing the student SAP appeal. And you can see at the top here that the status is locked. And you can also see if this student is repeating, have DF repeats for fall. They're listed here because we include those on the 3-term calculator as well. So the purpose of the ASP is to ensure that the student can reach SAP compliance. It is the cornerstone of the student's academic program and outlines federal aid eligibility courses to SAP compliance. So this is what the academic advisors prepare and send to us, upload through, and this is done on DegreeWorks. I wanted to give you an idea of what we use as a 3-term calculator and what's embedded into DegreeWorks. And this tool here, I mean, it is awesome because you can plug in the overall attempted, earned, and GPA hours, and it will give you the deficiencies based on what you enter into the 3 terms. And, you know, if it will allow you to increase it to get to where we need the student to be. And it will show here once the student has made it through to the 2.0 and 67%. You can also add the DF repeat hours in here as well, which is taken into consideration. So now I'm going to turn it over to Patrick to kind of go over some of your questions you had about DegreeWorks as far as how to fix ASPs in DegreeWorks, how to lock them. And Patrick, you can kind of share with us when the Responsive dashboard will be in effect if it is now, or when the classic will go away, whatever the case may be. But I'll stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Sure. So for the time being, as I mentioned, I think the last time I was here, the classic dashboard, we're planning on continuing it at least through the 2023 academic year. It may, that's not a hard deadline that's when it's going to go away. That's just kind of our estimate right now as a year and a half from now. It's not a guarantee, it's not set in stone. But the reason why it's going away is that the software vendor that makes DuriWorks is removing the classic dashboard from their future releases of the software. They're only moving forward with the responsive dashboard. They are planning on making that change on their end at the end of this year, but we do not follow the same upgrade path that they do. So whenever they release a new version, we don't always upgrade to it right away. Generally, we're a version or two behind because those are usually more stable than the most recent release in fixing bugs and things like that. So just to give you kind of a timeline there, estimate through the 2023 academic year, could be longer, but that's at least at the minimum. Also, as I mentioned the last time I was here, the responsive dashboard is available, running in conjunction with the classic dashboard right now. You should have buttons to both available to you in through Portal. You should have, if you have the faculty view, there's two buttons just right at the top. If you have the employee view when you're in Portal, if you scroll down on the left side of the page, there's two links there, one classic dashboard, responsive dashboard. They're right next to each other, so should be able to find them both. So really what we're going to go over today is kind of looking at plans in the responsive dashboard, just to kind of review how things look and things like that with the responsive dashboard. So I'm going to start here with PowerPoint presentation that some of you may have seen before. It's available on the registrar's website under our documentations page if you wanted to review this after the meeting, outside of the meeting, at your own pace, anything like that. And there's some other things in here as well, so I'm jumping ahead just specifically to the plan section. But one thing that I do want to point out before we really get in here is that the responsive dashboard and the classic dashboard are pulling from the same data source. So if you create a plan in one, you can look at it in the other one. So if you're not comfortable yet with the responsive dashboard, you can create a plan in the classic dashboard and then open it up in the responsive dashboard to kind of look around and see, okay, here's how I move things around and things like that. So you can still do everything that you want to do with the classic dashboard. And then, when you have time, poke around with the responsive dashboard. So they're pulling from the same data sources. Everything should be the same between them from that end. So as far as plans go, whenever you pull up a student, there's a bar across the top of the page. You can see it here: worksheets, exceptions, plans. If you don't have exceptions access, you won't have this one, and none of you should have this one. This is a screenshot of my web browser. But when you look at here, you'll have plans, and then when you click on the plans tab, it'll show you any plans that the student has currently. And then there's the button here to make new plans. And once I go through the slides here, we'll actually get into the responsive dashboard, and I'll walk through some of the steps here to making a plan. So when you're in here, you have a blank plan. If you want to add new terms, there's a button up here to add another term. So if we're doing a multi-term plan, a success plan or something like that, you can add, I could add summer or fall, another spring term, whatever. And then here along the side, this is where we have our different requirement choices. So with a academic success plan, it sounds like you're going to be more doing specific coursework than kind of some of the more open-ended things that you might do with a full 4-year plan, where you're going to say you're going to take GEF 5. We don't know what GEF it's going to be, but you're going to take a GEF 5. Whereas with an academic success plan, you might be saying you're going to take this specific class. So you might be working more with this course option than any of these other choices. specifically making academic success plans, but we're going to go over all 4 options just as a broader making plans in general. So the choice option here is you're just saying, we're going to give you a few options of courses to take. These are actually specific courses. We're just going to say you can take one of these. So what you have here is you'll put in the course number here. So you put in, English 101, CS 101, Accounting 101, whatever. And then if you want to make more options, you click add, it'll add another course down here right below it. And you can just add that other option here as well. These are optional. Again, we might be doing this for an academic success plan where you want to fill these in, at least the minimum grade, possibly, maybe not credits, because the credits are kind of hard locked generally to whatever course they are. But if there is a multiple variable credit course that you're working with, like research or something like that, you can put in a number of credits here to say you're going to take this for 3 credits or 4 credits or 12 credits or whatever. And then the drop down menu here has the minimum grades. You're going to take this course and you need to get a B, you need to get an A, whatever the option you want to do there is. The next option here is the course. So this is where you want to just put in a specific course. You're going to take CS 101. You're going to take Accounting 202. You're going to take, the Biology 115, whatever it is, just a hard requirement. Again, we have the optionals here for the minimum grade, campus, if they want to do online, or Morgantown, if they're going to take it at Beckley or Kaiser, if the options there, delivery again, online or on campus. These are optional. You don't have to do anything with these. They're just there if you want to get really down to the nitty gritty on the plan. The GPA, so this is one of the things that Joanne had mentioned that needs to be a part of each particular term, is saying for an academic success plan, you need to get a specific GPA. So here you would just select GPA from the list. You would select whichever term you're going to apply this GPA to, put in the GPA that you want to track, either the overall GPA, their entire academic history GPA, their term. So that would be applied to just specifically this term. Or if you want to look at their major GPA with, you're going to be taking some major specific courses, but you're also taking some other things. So really, we just want to make sure that your major GPA, the courses that are scheduled for this semester that are specifically part of your major, you achieve whatever GPA we enter here. And then you can just put in whatever number you want to put there. And then you have that GPA requirement. This placeholder one's the last one. It's that more open-ended one where you can say you're going to take GEF4. We don't know which one it is yet. We're going to worry about that a little further down the line whenever we get to that semester. But for now, we're going to say, in the spring term, 2 years from now, you're going to take GEF4. You can also put in things like electives, just open-ended elective. Again, we don't know what it is. We'll worry about that when we get there. But we're just trying to fill out the generic plan, the idea, the general pathway that we're going to go in. All right. So that kind of covers the 4 different things that you can add to a plan. One of the nice things that I like with the responsive dashboard from building plans is moving things around. So things don't always go according to plan, and sometimes students take a course in a different semester than what was originally on their plan. And with the responsive dashboard, it's very easy to just pick up a course and move it to another term. You just click on it and drag it over to the other term that you want to go to, and it will just go over there. So this is one of the things that I really like about the responsive dashboard from the plans making perspective, is that it feels a lot more intuitive. You'll have the whole calendar, you have the whole plan just sitting there in front of you, and you can just drag and drop and move things around wherever you want them to go. All right, so that kind of covers the slides, just a real simple, here's some of the features of the responsive dashboard. with regards to plans, so let me switch my share to my web browser so that you all can see that. All right, so here's the responsive dashboard. We'll pull up a student, just pull up myself because I know what my student ID number is. And then we will go over here to plans. And here it is. If we want to create a new plan, we can select a new plan. We'll start with a blank plan. If we're building an academic success plan, we don't have a template for an academic success plan because they're generally tailored to an individual student as opposed to a student that's in accounting. You know, accounting they have their plan of study that's in the catalog, and you know, there's a template there that should be relatively close to that. So if we're building a new plan from scratch, we're going to start our starting term. And let's say that we're building an academic success plan for the fall. So this would be fall of 2022. And here you have that locked button that Joanne was talking about as well. You just check that, and that keeps the student from being able to go in here and edit the plan. All right, so we have our plan. So we're in. And let's say we wanted to add some requirements. So if we wanted to add a specific course, we can just hit course, and we're going to say we're going to add English 101. And you need to get a B. And then we'll add another course here, and we'll say you're going to take CS 101. And you need to get an A. It's a high value class. It's 4 credits. You want to get an A in that one. And then GPA for this term, we want you to have at least a 2.5. All right. So we have some courses and some requirements in here for this term. If we want to add another term, we just select add term from the drop-down menu. We add whatever the next term is. So the next term from fall of 2022 would be spring of 2023. Add that. And then let's say that, oh, the student decided, you know, we worked it out and the student's going to take English 101 in the spring. Well, okay. So I can just drag that over there. Now English 101's in the spring. So one thing that has been asked about that I've heard from a few folks in the financial aid office and also from some advisors is printing off these plans. So currently in production, so what you all see, there is not a print function for plans. However, Ellucian has added that feature in a release that's already out, which we are in the process of upgrading to. So this is our development system. So this already has the newest version, the version that we're going to in it. So I can show you there is going to be a print button here where it'll pull up the plan. This isn't available to you all yet. It is coming. We're currently targeting May for that upgrade to take place. So look forward for this to be coming. Yes. See, there's a hand raised.
Yes, Patrick, it's Jen here. I know one of the things, at least in the older version of DegreeWorks and printing these out in PDFs, you sort of have a couple different options. One that you can just print that just shows the plan, indicates that there might be a note, but doesn't actually spell out the note. And to be able to spell out the note, you have to tell DegreeWorks basically, I want it with notes, like which PDF version you want. Is that going to be distinguishable here? Or because I think what I find is that a lot of the notes feature is important, at least in the ASPs that I do, because of just some unique things that, you know, my students have. And you're testing it right now. You're awesome.
I actually have not tested that yet. I haven't tested the note function here. So it looks like the notes are not included. So that might be something that we need to go back to Elysian and ask them to see if that's something they can add. Because I don't think this is a feature that we can turn on. So if the print function was something that I could control, it would already be there. So we're kind of at their whim as far as features that they want to add. So that I can add that to my list. So I'm actually going to Elysian's having their yearly conference in 2 weeks, and I'll be attending that. So I'll add that to my list of things to mention to them as a feature that we would like to see, is that ability to have notes that are written about plans on the PDF for the plan.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yep. So yeah, so that's kind of the basics of building plans. Again, one of the nice things about having the 2 dashboards running simultaneously for now is that this plan exists in the classic dashboard now. If I'm not saved this plan yet. Oh, this is production. I need to go to the development classic dashboard. Fingers have a mind of their own sometimes. There we go. So here's that plan that we just built in the responsive dashboard. You can open it up in the classic dashboard, so you can work in either one and it'll move between the two. All right, did anybody have any questions specifically related to plans? So when do you need to click the active box? So the active box is more or less an indicator for you, the advisor, and the student to know if this is a active plan. It's more of just a yes, no. Yeah, we're working off of this plan, or no, this is an old plan. So really that's your if you're the only advisor working with a set of students, the active box doesn't really necessarily help anybody other than yourself. Maybe if the student may have multiple plans floating out there, helps you keep track of which one is the one that we're actively working off of. But there is no rule for when the active box needs to be checked. It's more of an indicator for you, the advisor, or the student to know that if you have multiple plans, this is the one we're working off of. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Patrick. This is probably more a question for Joanne. Joanne, someone posted in the chat if we could get copies of the slides that you shared. And I would be happy if you're willing to share those, just email them to me and I can share them out in the message of the week that goes out to the AAC listserv.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Now, I also have another question. This is something that several of us on the committee, the executive committee had discussed, and the idea of the way that advisors are listed in Banner. And so I'm pretty much any student in the School of Pharmacy, whether they're at undergraduate or professional level, any student that falls under a situation of having to do a financial aid appeal, I'm the one that does the academic success plan. And I'm the only one that does them. Occasionally my associate dean will, but she's pretty much passed that all on to me. Which is fine, but I'm not listed at, like, every PharmD student is, I don't advise every PharmD student in the strictest sense, because we're cohort based and there's not really as much, at least of the transactional advising that needs to take place. So in the notifications that come back, that's the thing I have struggled with, at least this past year, is we submit a plan and there's something, erroneous about it that's my fault as the advisor. And needing to be able to get that information so that I, as the advisor, can update the ASP plan so that it is meeting the SAP process and what is needed. what are your recommendations on a way that those of us that aren't, those of us that are in departments that maybe have the responsibility of doing, academic success plans, and financial aid appeals, but might not necessarily be the official advisor of record that you would see in DegreeWorks or Banner?
Hmm. That's a good question. I'm going to, Terry, are you still on the call?
I'm here, but I'm not for sure I know the answer to that question. Simply because we really rely on the information that's in Banner, or what we can see.
Right.
And
Hmm.
that's a difficult one. Patrick, is there any way that whoever fills out that academic success plan can put their name on it or anything? Is there any way to do that?
I mean, DegreeWorks does show who the plan is created by, but what might be helpful for the folks doing the academic success plans, where you have a department like pharmacy, where you have one person, regardless if they're the actual advisor of record, is building the plan. You can just say, I don't know. I assume you're talking about communications that go out when there's something wrong with a plan. Is you all maintain a list of, if for a college that might have a specific person that does it, rather than just the advisor of record. Say any issues with pharmacy goes to Jen rather than whoever it says their advisor is. Kind of like what course program of study folks do, where they have a designee in each college of, this is who we send our problems to.
Patrick, that's that's a really good way to describe it. I mean, one of the things that I just popped in my head was, in the note somewhere, I usually put like a summative note at the very top of the plan that just sort of summarizes the whole thing, and then usually notes for each term or specific courses when that needs to be the case. I mean, one of the things I could start doing is put my name and email address in the plan notes, so that SFS would be able to see that, or perhaps talk to my administration here. And maybe what we might need to do, at least for pharmacy, is that if a student gets into a situation where they're going to have financial aid appeals, it usually means that they've also had reason to have academic standards issues for our program as well. Perhaps then maybe what we could do, at least maybe practice wise in our department, is just, when those situations occur, just automatically make me go in Banner and just automatically make the person an advisor. Something to ponder.
Very good question. Yeah.
Yep. And then, like, if nobody has any other questions about plans, the last thing I just wanted to mention, if I mentioned it before, but the documentation for everything is available on the registrar's website. I can post the link in the chat for anyone who doesn't have it. The whole presentation. So we just looked at the plan section of that presentation today, but there's more to it there. You can review that there. If you do want to register for training, or have anyone in your department that needs to register for training, that's also the link where you take care of that stuff as well. We have 3 more trainings for the rest of this semester, and then we'll be moving into our fall training schedule.
Great. And I'll just finish up with, can you all see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With our, SAP timeline, which is approaching, actually it's almost the end of March. So we will begin the end of spring 2022 semester review of academic success plans on May 11th. And what this means is that, we run SAP wide open, and we move all of our students that were awarded degrees to a corresponding graduation group. And then students that fall into a bad tracking group, we cancel all of their financial aid for summer, fall. And summer students that are on an ASP, but not enrolled or moved to like the next term. And we review and monitor the students that have not non-reported grades and incompletes, and we update students that change levels from undergrad to grad and for the different campuses. And then we also monitor changes in SAP students' course enrollment until there is a match with the approved academic success plan. And we do this no later than 5 business days after the last day to add drop a course for the semester. So, when we run that daily report, we're looking for students that match or in the classes that the academic advisor says they should be in. And a lot of times they're not. So, and if that's, if you get another request from a student saying, I need my plan changed, it's because they're not matching. So we hold to that academic success plan, 100%. So, but I just kind of want to give you a little bit of our time frame. So are there any other questions? Like I said, I tried to capture all of the ones that Terry had mentioned to me in your last council meeting. So if there's something we missed, I'll be happy to, you can email me and I can, shoot you an email back with some answers. Or did you have another question?
I do. And sorry, I'm that person in the class that's asking all the questions. That would be me today. So, I have found that I prepare an academic success plan. It goes out and the student performs differently. Hopefully it's better. Sometimes it's worse, but they still have the ability within 3 semesters to get within the GPA compliance range. And so I do revisions to their ASP. And when doing so, once I see the first term grades, I put those grades in as what they actually earned. And do a revision. Is there anything in particular that your team would like in terms of notes or kind of distinguishing that, or just simply say it's a revised ASP? Just curious about what would be most effective to call that out.
So when you say revised, so are you saying that, because what happens with us is when we do the daily review, and if they drop the course or whatever, it automatically fails the contract. So, then that student will have to appeal for the next term. So at that point, there could be a revised ASP, if that's what you're speaking of. But
yeah, that's essentially what I'm speaking of, because my understanding, and this is where I probably need correction if I'm wrong, is, so let's say they got put on, financial aid probation following last academic year. So I create the ASP that includes, like, let's say, for example, fall 21, spring 22, and summer 22. But then, obviously we have finished the fall semester and they performed differently than what was on that ASP that I created just prior to the fall semester when they were doing their appeal. Most of my students are able to still get into compliance, but it changes that ASP for the subsequent terms or term. And so I have to revise the ASP. My habit has been, when I revise that ASP and the semester, like the first semester has been completed, I actually go back and put the actual grades earned in that, like, fall semester, for example, and then revise anything that needs to be revised for spring and summer.
Then we would need to have that, yes.
Okay. And so
because we're going to be checking, so that next term is coming up and we're going to be checking, and if it doesn't agree, that's going to be a failed contract.
Okay, so we're able to have a revised contract then, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can see that being an issue. So that student would need to reach out to us you know, and make sure we get those changes, because if not, it's going to be a failed contract, which means they would have to appeal again.
Okay, okay. Just trying to save everybody a whole lot of work, extra work is kind of where I'm getting at that from, and just want to be as efficient as possible for your team and for our students, obviously, and well, selfishly for myself as an advisor doing one of this.
Right. And Terry, unless I'm saying something differently, but have you always had to do a revised ASP in the past, or?
Repeat that again, Joanne?
I said, unless I'm understanding differently, we have always taken revised ASPs in the past, correct?
Yes, yeah, typically, you know, when we're getting revised ASPs, it's because when we initially look at the ASP and the courses that the student is enrolled for the next semester, they just don't agree. So we either ask the student to update their course schedule or get a revised ASP. That's what I think of as a revised ASP.
Right. Right. I just wanted to default to you because I haven't been in this role of managing the the team very, very long.
Sure.
And it's always moving parts of the SAP appeal. So you know, I just want to make sure I'm on the right page with that. But yes.
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah. You know, one thing that I've seen a couple times on the academic success plans that we're very aware of and that we look for is that, say, if a student has a 1.8 overall grade point average, and the academic success plan for a term requires a 3.25 GPA. We're going to look at that. And we're going to wonder whether that's a reasonable expectation for a student with a 1.8 GPA, or, you know, and we're probably going to come back and ask you about that. So just be aware of that. And also, you know, when we're looking at the academic success plans, we like Patrick says, we should be able to see who created that plan, and if we can, that is the advisor, that is the person that we should be communicating with if there's an issue or we need additional information or anything like that. So we will certainly keep that in mind and make sure that we're doing that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate answering all of my questions.
Uh-huh.
Hope that my questions were helpful to the rest of you on the call as well.
Okay, well, that's all that we have on the SAP piece, but I will definitely make sure that the presentation gets sent to you. And should I send it? What is your first name? I'm sorry.
It's Jennifer.
Jennifer. Okay.
Jennifer Clutter, and it's just jeclutter@hsc.wvu.edu.
Okay. Because all I'm seeing is advising council, and I didn't
Yeah.
quite think that was your name, but you know, I had to ask. I'm sorry.
I'm just one of the chairs right now. That's
Call you that going forward, Jen? Can we just call you advising council?
oh gosh, I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. So unless you all have other questions.
Anybody have anything? Okay. Joanne and Patrick, thank you very, very much. And you actually showed me something on the responsive dashboard that I was unaware of, and I really like seeing it.
Great.
Glad I could help. If I can get more people using the responsive dashboard and tell me what they like and what they hate, then maybe we can certainly work on getting some changes in there.
And let me just say on behalf of advisors everywhere, Patrick, your mission with Ellucian, may the force be with you.
I'll do my best. Again, and I think Misty had sent this out to some folks as well. You know, I know a lot about the responsive dashboard. I know I work in it every day, but I don't see it from the same perspective that you all see it. So if you do have things that you're like, I wish the responsive dashboard could do X, let me know. Especially if they like, you know, some of the things that we might be able to do now, but if it's something that is more on Lucian's side, they need it, then me being able to go to them and say, I've got advisors telling me they need this, then it gives me a little bit more push to get them on it, because they might have other schools that have been asking them the same thing, and it just adds to that weight to say this is something they actually need to do. So, and I think Misty either has or is sending out a notification to some of you. I'm not sure if it went out to everybody, but at least
Yeah, Patrick, I think I shared that with the AAC executive team, but you know, if we feel that it's worthwhile to send to the entire group, we certainly can do that, depending on what the AAC feels is best for that. But yeah, we certainly can do that.
So, yeah, again, like I said, I'm going to be going to their big conference, and it's 2 weeks from now. So anything that you send me between now and then, I will do my best to advocate for it when I'm there.
Great. All right. I'll sign off now and send you that, Jen, that PowerPoint, okay? So you all can have it.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Really appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Susan, I believe you're going to introduce our next guest.
Yes, definitely. So, hi everyone. Thanks for coming to the workshop. Our next guest is Vanessa Yurkovich, and she's of course the Director of Education Abroad. Something definitely I think our students here and has missed during the pandemic. So she's just going to give us a good refresher about how we can help students plan a semester abroad or a summer abroad, you know, especially for the upcoming fall semester. And then she's also going to talk a little bit about the WVU Global Mountaineers certification. And then of course, questions after that. So thank you very much, Vanessa, for joining us today, and you can take the floor. Thanks.
Thanks. Can I share my screen?
You should be able to. I've made you a co-host.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be in front of you guys again, talking about Ed Abroad after a never-ending year. Couple of years, it feels like. The exciting news is we're back. Mostly, we're not everywhere. We're not at full capacity, of course. We're still monitoring COVID-19, of course, and we are crossing our fingers and watching things develop in Europe, staying up to date, and we'll keep our students and our faculty and everyone up to date. We take safety absolutely as a priority. So if your students are concerned, we will never send them somewhere that we don't feel they will have not only a safe experience, but a quality experience. We've taken the approach just because we can doesn't mean we should. So making sure that we are, you know, bringing back programming when students can have a really robust, good experience. We are requiring the COVID-19 vaccine and booster for all of our group travel. For students who are doing semesters abroad, like on the exchange where they're pretty much traveling independently, but have the support of an institution, the vaccine is highly recommended, but not required, because they can adjust their travel, do quarantine at the beginning and end of trips. They're there for a longer period of time. They can accommodate some of those travel restrictions that group travel can't. There are processes in place with the Office of Accessibility Services or Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. If a student wanted to seek an exemption for the vaccine and booster, we have all those processes in place, and we can help students with those questions. A lot of the world, the State Department still has a level 4 travel advisory. Historically, we did not allow students to travel to level 4. if a student is going to a level 4 destination and the only reason it's level 4 is COVID-19, we are having them do a petition, and we have a more thorough vetting and pre-departure orientation process for that. But we are taking those advisories very seriously, and making sure our students are aware of where they're going, what the restrictions are, what the regulations are, and how that could impact their travel. Essentially, we are seeing less restrictions, but we have to be a little bit more flexible with our groups and excursions in terms of the capacity isn't as, events aren't allowing as many people in, excursions aren't allowing as many people, us where you can't book things as far in advance, things of that nature. And students will still need to mask in a lot of parts of Europe, and making sure they have the proper vaccine documentation with them to have as smooth of a process and travel as possible. We go over all of this with all the students. They can have one-on-one advising with us. We can have pre-departures, making sure they feel comfortable before they leave. We had students go abroad for the first time fall 2021 on semesters, and our first faculty-led group actually went to Dubai in December 2021. The students had some hiccups. They still had a wonderful experience. And though we didn't have spring break, mainly because we didn't want students missing final projects and finals if they got quarantined, less so than about the risk of travel. We do have 14 summer programs going out. Those applications have just closed. We'll be working with students to get registered for the course, get prepared to go out. So if you have any students that are signed up for those programs, they don't have a summer course on their schedule just yet. We have all of our summer students register. April 9th is the date we send out those CRNs. They're hidden, but those will pop up. If you have any students that are seeking financial aid, if the course is special topics or something that won't automatically show in their degree progression for summer, I do believe there is a process that advisors go through to make sure that is in the plan of study. I understood a little bit of the financial aid presentation that just happened, but that is definitely outside of my full purview. But we send the course registration for summer, and then we notify financial aid to start reviewing those students for packages. Now, for moving forward, looking forward, planning ahead, right now we really are in the steps of finalizing fall and summer. It is never too early for a student to start planning. Students planning a year in advance, 2 years in advance for study abroad is a really great timeline. It allows so for us, it's really great if you can look at, in a student's plan of study, where the semesters are the most flexible. So students, we can work with institutions to find courses in the major specific courses that might fulfill an elective, an area of emphasis, or a JEF. But flexibility is key for those long-term semester exchanges. We will help with course syllabi, help students have to submit the course for transfer equivalency, but we can assist them with how that process works, finding as much course information as possible so that they have a good idea of what they're going into. It isn't too late for fall though. While the exchange options are limited, and those are best for in-state students, if you have out-of-state students that aren't on West Virginia state aid, we have a lot of providers that provide programming that are very clearly mapped which courses they will get, and that takes a shortened time frame to get a student on a program. Let's see. So in the fall semester, students can plan and apply for the spring exchange, and our faculty-led programs for spring break and summer will come out mid-fall semester and accept applications into the spring. We generally tell students a year in advance is great for long-term planning, but you need at least a full semester to start planning for these programs. And if you have any faculty, we are now accepting proposals for our faculty-led programs for next year. We have faculty propose them new every year. We generally get a lot of repeats, but we're always open to new options. All right, so how can you help students get started? Thinking about how it fits in their academic plan, we really defer to you to guide students on how they need to move their course and degree requirements so that they have the most flexibility for study abroad. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us. We have a ton of information on our website for both students, parents, families. Students can schedule an advising appointment. We're still primarily virtual based on student requests. So students can tell us whether they want to be virtual and in person, but we are seeing students attendance to those appointments is much better with the virtual option. So that'll probably stay for a while. Students do need to talk to the hub about their personal financial plan because some aid cannot be used in transient and depending on the type of program. But we also have global affairs scholarships available. We now have spring break travel awards and summer travel awards for the faculty-led programs that historically didn't have a lot of scholarship support. So there's scholarships now available. And this link, which I'll send the slides so you can look at this on your own time, but it does pull up scholarships that, oops, I'll need to correct that. Maybe, I don't know why it opened an email. It's away. But we have scholarships collected from that we know are offered around the university at the college level. So if you have any scholarships that we don't have listed, we would appreciate if you could share that information so we could disseminate it out to interested students as much as possible. For your role, we will be in contact with you primarily to confirm like course plan of study needs, making sure we understand what courses can and can't be taken in transient. All the courses come back through the transient form process. There is a study abroad transient form. It gets submitted through the registrar's office. So if you know there's a capstone that can't be taken abroad, or students really need to focus on area of emphasis courses, that's really good for us to know so we can guide the student and find courses that meet their needs. We will confirm that the courses are on the right campus, that they're taught in the right language. We will help you navigate international course catalogs, we'll request syllabi, but we won't make any sort of judgment calls on the equivalency of the course or the plan of study specifically. And this has become, as you know, more important with financial aid requests, making sure students have what they need. We've started sending, we ask the student who their academic advisor is, and after every appointment, we send a follow-up email and we'll copy you on our notes so you know how we've guided them or what we've recommended. But so that way we're all on the same page instead of playing telephone. It just kind of works a little better. So we also have the Global Mountaineer Certificate. So this is under the Office of Global Affairs. It does have a study abroad component, but it is more robust than just study abroad. This is to indicate on students' transcripts that they are globally focused. They've completed certain global coursework that are electives, foreign language. It starts with an intro course and ends with a capstone where they review their entire global experience. The education abroad component we have become a little more flexible with. So of course we want students to do an education abroad or internship abroad, but we've seen there's varying levels of comfort and accessibility for travel. So we have several virtual global courses that we allow students to take in place of that education abroad component. And the internship can be in the US if there is a global component. If it was, something working with immigration or refugees or just a global enterprise of some sort, they can ask for that to be reviewed to waive that requirement. Let's see. New things in our office. We are now a passport acceptance facility. So students can make their passport appointments with the Office of Global Affairs instead of going down to the North High Street Post Office. We have a lot more appointments. We can take them straight from the entry advising appointment to taking care of that documentation barrier, working with our staff right off the bat. So we take passport photos, which are free for students, faculty, and faculty. We can help with the application, make sure that gets mailed out in a timely way. Spring break and summer travel awards, those are for faculty led. I mentioned this earlier. And we have taken on national student exchange and faculty led programming in the US. So essentially we are overseeing any credit bearing travel. So we're not necessarily, I mean, we can help, but we're not handling like small department level like excursions on the weekend. But if it's a 2 to 3 week course for credit in the summer, we have 2 this summer. We're now working with Creative Arts on their Jackson Hole photography program, which ran independent of us for several years. And we have an extension program out of Davis with the University of Missouri that's going to run this summer. So there are some options for students who don't quite feel comfortable going too far away from home. And the National Student Exchange runs similar to our International Exchange Program. It's a consortium of 170 US schools that a student can spend a semester paying either their WU tuition or the in-state rate at the other institution. It depends on how the school is signed up with the consortium. It's good for students who want to kind of test going, like living in an area that they're considering for grad school, or if they have an internship, if they have friends somewhere else, they just want to test the waters, and maybe they don't have the flexibility that you might need for coursework for an international exchange as well. So that's a good options for other students. The last thing on my list is independent study abroad. So this has come up a little bit more lately. It's kind of always been an option, but we've got a formalized form to request submission. So what we found is students were finding internships or opportunities abroad that, because we have a smaller portfolio this summer and departments are issuing independent study credit, this allows the student to register with our office, get credit for the experience, get the Ed Abroad tuition and fee discount, have our risk management support, and allow us to vet the programming they're doing, even though it's not a full group program. This is not something I would recommend like broadly to like the whole student population, go find your own program, but for specific needs where there's a very unique opportunity in a field that'll be great for a student's professional and academic goals, we do have the ability to kind of review and vet and support those students as well. And save the date. We are planning an in-person study abroad fair in the fall, October 5th from 10 to 4. We'll be broadcasting this over and over until the fall semester. At this point in October, that's when our faculty letter all online. It will be past the spring exchange deadline. So if anyone's thinking next spring, they can go ahead and start reaching out to us now. They can reach out to us all summer long. We'll be working. It's never too early to plan. But fall 22 is also a good time to start thinking of the next academic year. So we encourage students at NSO to get settled into WVU and then come to the fair to really get into the details of what's offered for either their sophomore or junior year. And then here's our contact information. If you just want to see some student pictures, see where they're at in the world, we do Instagram takeovers and let them share their experience so we can live vicariously through them. Any questions?
Okay. Vanessa, there's a question in the chat about international students. So I guess the question is, are the requirements different for international students? So studying abroad, can you talk a little bit about that?
So not
And
necessarily.
actually, it was more for the Global Mountaineer program, since
Oh,
they
okay.
already have a couple of those, like the language and the background from another country. I just wondered if that affected it.
So that's something that we've kind of been tossing around for a while. But it's not formalized currently. An American Studies kind of version of the certificate, right? But COVID kind of put it on a back burner.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Any questions?
I do have a question, Vanessa, about those virtual study abroad conferences or workshops. What are they, like a class where a student would, participate for a certain number of weeks on a Zoom meeting or something to that effect? What do those look like?
So they've taken a lot of different forms. So there are virtual options through some of our providers that may or may not be credit bearing. So virtual internships has become a big option for students. So instead of traveling, they work remotely for a company that's abroad. We also have virtual service learning opportunities. So there's an exercise phys program this summer where the group will be listening to community leaders in Brazil, getting a lot of information, working with some nonprofits, but a lot of their community work will actually take place in Morgantown. So taking inspiration from, learning from, but bringing that back to their home community for the service. I teach a class in the fall based on the on the Campus Read, where we invite students from our international exchange partners. And the class is about 50-50 international exchange students, half WVU students. It is all asynchronous because time zones became a lot. But they all read the Campus Read and they all interact on a discussion board to share their own perspective in reading the book. And all of the discussions are based on prompts of global events and things that are happening in the world and things that everyone kind of faces and maybe in a different way. So that's triggered a lot of conversation between those students, and they are required to like form a group and meet in real time through Zoom with students from at least one other institution. So they're interacting in that way. Business did some courses. Well, they had some virtual opportunities with embedded in courses, and I believe these are in the works for next year, where their courses students already sign up for. But they had guest lectures from other institutions come in and speak. There was a hackathon with Hong Kong Baptist University and chamber students that went through the night. They really do take a bunch of different forms. The global health brigades, also the business brigades, not the health brigades, but the business brigades met with, they did a telebrigade with a group in Panama. And they actually said, while they miss traveling, and of course you can't get the food option, they felt like they had a lot more resources and they get a better product back. So essentially they worked as consultants for a company. It was a women's run business in Panama. So they got, whereas they would have felt rushed to learn everything and do everything in a week, in terms of marketing or production or whatever plan they put in place, they were able to touch base with some of their professors to get more advice before making recommendations, refer back to their textbooks and things that they might not have taken, because it'll be like once a week meeting with them instead of cramming everything in a 10-day period. So we are looking at turning that virtual model into students having some interactions a couple weeks in advance of travel to get comfortable, have some familiarity, but still having that travel component. So you're having a more robust experience without adding on like 4 weeks of travel.
All right, are there any other questions for Vanessa? Okay, well, thanks so much, Vanessa, for presenting. We appreciate it. And I'll turn it back over to you, Beth.
Thanks for having me.
That's all I have. Jen, was there anything that you wanted to end with?
It's a great day to be a mountaineer wherever you may be. Thanks everybody for attending. Really appreciate it. And hope that you found this helpful, and hopeful,
Hopeful.
all the way around. And we certainly welcome any topics. This was technically our last workshop for this academic year. Our next event will be on April 26th, which will be our woohoo advising celebration and advisor appreciation day. So stay tuned for information on that and MOW. And other than that, really appreciate everybody's participation throughout the year in our workshops, and we do welcome input from anyone regarding topics that they feel they would like us to cover, and go from there. Other than that, have a lovely rest of your afternoon, and hopefully the temperature is going up rather than down. But I guess take whatever coat is appropriate at this time.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, everybody.